Welcome to another episode of the Dreams to Reality podcast, and today we've got a very, very special guest, and I'm really interested for this interview because I'm very fascinated about this man's story and also what he's currently doing. So today our special guest is Andreas, the head coach of the Bristol Flyers basketball team. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
Thank you. So we've got a mutual contact, and also on top of that, when I was at the college, SGS College, where obviously Bristol Flyers is based, you was obviously the head coach for the Bristol Flyers. I was a part of the American Football Academy, but to be honest, I was quite terrified of you. Because any time at that point I'd walk across the balcony, I'd always see you kind of shouting at the players, getting hyped up as well. So I kind of always avoided you, and it wasn't kind of until recently we connected. So today, what I really want to get out of today is just to hear a little bit about your story, also what you currently do on a daily basis, and many lessons you've learned along the way. Because how many people do you think you've coached over the years?
Oh, wow. Difficult to put a number. Over 15, 16 years of coaching, probably, wow. 20, 30 people a year, perhaps, even more than that. Wow. Kind of thing. So, it's a big number. So it's very hard to call. If you were to include the professional team as well and the academy, as you talked about, as SGS College, the University of Bath, there's been a few people along the way. Yes, for sure.
So where are you from?
So I'm from Greece, Athens. I was there till the age of 18, and then I decided to come to study university here at the University of Bath.
Okay.
And I'm almost 20 years here. And, obviously Greece was a great place to grow up, Athens. I played basketball, and I had to make a decision if I would carry on in a professional manner or if I would concentrate more in education and see what opportunities come as a result of that, but still carrying on playing sports. So I made the decision to come to the UK. I thought I'm going to get a good education and see where things take me. And you know what? And I was never planning to go into basketball coaching. Actually, I came here to study economics, and all my degree are in economics.
Wow.
But in my first year at university, I got involved with the team there, and the coach, due to personal reasons, he could not commit. So I started coaching the team, and then by the end of the season, the players asked me if I could take the first team, if I could coach the first team the following year. And then I got involved with girls basketball there as well. So I haven't just done male basketball, I've done female as well. And one thing led to another. National League basketball, national team basketball, and now with the Flyers, and what a journey has been.
Okay, so when you was back in Athens, have you always been into basketball? Was you playing back in Athens?
Yeah.
And where did that interest for sports really come from?
Basketball in Greece is huge. It's the national sport. A lot of people know us for our football team. We won the Euro a few years ago. But the real, they call it the national favorite, is basketball.
Okay.
And the national team has won the European Championship a couple of years. Back in 1987, it was the first time that the Greek team won the European Championship, and that kind of created a big push for the sport in the country. And I suppose I was one of those young players. I was around 6 at the time, and literally basketball swept the nation.
Was it in high schools?
Yes, it was in school. I started playing at the age of 6. You can start it from a very young age.
Wow,
and I just fell in love with it. And, I think I really like the idea of being involved in sport. I think it builds character. It does so many things. So I think any sport. And, I think young people have to try different sports before they decide which one to go to. But for me, it was basketball from the start. From day one, I just fell in love with it. I just the things that you could do with the basketball without the basketball, just the team element, just putting the ball through the net, something simple like shooting the basketball and seeing that ball going through and hearing the swish on the net. It was just a kind of a feeling that I could not even describe. And from that moment onwards, I knew I always wanted to play the sport. I didn't know if I wanted to coach the sport at the time. I discovered that a little bit later on. Around the age of 15, I started getting a bit involved with coaching. I like working with young children and helping them find solutions. and I kind of fall in love with the tactical side of the game. But as I said, I wasn't really intending to go into coaching.
No.
I thought it would be something maybe I would do alongside my working career.
Yeah.
But soon enough, when I got to university, and I realized the excitement that there is behind coaching.
So was that your first time traveling away from Greece?
Yeah.
Coming to England, or did you travel to different places before?
I had traveled a little bit through basketball. I have been to a few places like Europe, America, but
when you was before 18.
Yeah, before the age of 18.
Wow.
But
How was that?
It was just, I think basketball opens so many doors.
Yeah.
And I think to be able to travel with the team across Europe and see different places, it was just really exciting. And there was the element of playing against other nations, but also just going and experience the civilization outside of Greece, as you say. But in terms of England, it was my first time. I remember my first day in England here. We landed at Heathrow Airport with my father. We got into a taxi, and then suddenly I see the steering wheel in the car on the other side. And we're driving on the other side, obviously, as well. So that was something it took me quite a while to kind of get used to.
I don't know if it's a stereotypical view, but when I was in Catalonia, Greece this year, the driving out there is unreal.
Yes.
The crazy drivers.
Yeah, you should see Athens. You should experience Athens. Athens is at another level. So a lot of people talk about the New York taxi drivers and things like that.
No.
But Athenian taxi drivers are unique.
Because Catalonia is obviously, there's quite a lot of hills and stuff and mountains.
Yes.
So I remember going up and like you see the taxi drivers that's on the other side of the road. But they just know the roads like the back of their hands.
Yeah, and you know, when you have traffic lights, it can still be red, but you will still hear beeping behind you, even though it hasn't gone green yet. So, you know, you have all those type of situations. Driving is an experience. I would not recommend it to someone, especially in Athens. Maybe in a Greek island, it's a much more relaxed.
Yeah.
Well, you could say much more relaxed, but I think I was in Kefalonia before, and I think we drove up the mountains, and there were some goats and things, and there were some sharp turns and things. I don't know if you experienced that in Kefalonia.
Literally like this.
Yeah, and you know, at one point you're driving down this steep hill, and there was like a right turn kind of thing, and you're thinking like you're braking, you can feel yourself sweating, but it's all good. We're here, so great experience.
Speak to me the jump. Was it a huge jump for you to come from Athens to the UK? Was it a big thing for you to do that as, say, an 18-year-old? Or was it something you was just more comfortable with and you was just excited for it? Or did you have a little bit of anxiety around that?
There was anxiety because I had never spent time outside of Greece, a significant amount of time. And I was committed to come to university for 3, maybe 4 years.
Yeah.
As it happened, it was a lot longer than that.
Yeah, 20.
So the language barrier, I mean, that was the one thing. We learned in school from an early age English, so I wasn't so much concerned about the language barrier. It was more getting accustomed to it and speaking on an everyday. And I think I remember the first week I would still translate everything in my head before I speak, but then afterwards, you know, it becomes natural. Now I think in English, you know, and I can kind of straight away answer back. I think at the time, those first couple of weeks, it took me a while to get used to it. In terms of the culture, I mean, the food, the weather, I mean, they're the standard kind of things that usually people would talk about. But you know what? I love England. I love living in Great Britain. I mean, Bristol is home. Bath was a great university to be. And you know, that's not me promoting Bath University, but it was just
Cut that out.
it was just the right size place for me.
Yeah.
Just the campus feeling, and the city is not a big city kind of thing.
So
it was just the right environment.
Did you not consider potentially, because I know a lot of your players come over from the States, or you have a lot of younger players getting scholarships over to America. When you were 17, 18, did you not consider potentially going to college in America?
It crossed my mind, like anyone at that age, as you say, playing an American sport. Like, how cool will it be to have a scholarship and maybe play in the States? I think the reality is I knew as a basketball player, I knew I was of a good level, but I don't think I was of the high level. And I was always very realistic. I wasn't, you know, sometimes people play sport and they're thinking, okay, I'm going to go to the NBA, I'm going to do that. I just enjoy playing the sport.
Of course.
And I wanted to see how far it would take me. But I was also realistic to make the decision that, you know, I wasn't good enough, if you want to call that kind of thing, to get a scholarship in the States. That doesn't mean that I would stop playing basketball, but what I wanted to do was secure a good academic qualifications. And then if I had the opportunity to play professional basketball, great. But I think for me, UK was a better route. And I think, I'm having this conversation now with some of our athletes at the academy where they have to make that decision. Do they go to the States or do they go to the UK? And I think sometimes they get caught with that dream of going to the States. But the thing is that there's good programs in the States, they're not so good programs, like in any other country. And I think it has to be about the journey, the experience that they get. And I think for me, UK was the right decision at the time.
Yeah, so you're in Bath, you start coaching a little bit. Was you still playing as you was coaching?
Yes, I was playing coaching for the first few years.
Okay, cool.
Which has its challenges. But, as I was getting more serious about it, or maybe in my third year kind of thing at university, I kind of went less playing, a lot more coaching.
Okay.
And I started attending coaching clinics, seminars, finding a lot more about the ins and outs of coaching, finding more about the game. And soon that transition, some people have a problem with making that transition from a player to a coach. It's a bit of an issue. It's very hard to let go. I think for me, that was never a big issue. And, I cannot even tell you when I've played basketball recently. I just kind of fall in love with the game. And I think the more, you go through that phase as a young coach where you want to read every book there is about basketball, watch every
Where did that come from? Where did that hunger come from, do you think?
I think it's just the love of the sport. I think it was developed in a young age, and I wanted to find out as much as there is for it. And every day you're learning. I mean, the reality is you can watch as many DVDs, any books, but you're learning every day.
Every day.
And I think that's kind of something that, and especially these days, because you have things like Twitter and it's such a great CPD. You can find so many solutions out there. YouTube, you can see things. At the time, it was more about getting a book or getting a DVD, watching a coaching clinic. There were less opportunities at the time. Now, I mean, there's so many more opportunities in terms of developing your trade. But I think it was just that inner motivation I had. I just wanted to be as good as I could be. If it's coaching, if you're doing my academics, I always felt that you got to give it your all. And you got to put full effort to it. There's nothing to do. I think that type of approach of fully committing to something and wanting to be as good as you can be, and that kind of thirst for knowledge, if you want to call it.
Because the experience is the key part as well. Because let's be honest, you're not just a coach, are you? Really, to as many of these kids under you, or the people you do coach, you're also kind of like a father figure. They've also got things going on at home. So you're not just coaching about basketball, you're also leading in life in many ways. Was that difficult to say if one of your basketball players come up to you and talk to you about something personal? Was that hard to transition from being a coach to then maybe offering some advice to go to different places or try different things? So as you said then, you talk a lot about whether to go to the States or whether not to. You can't learn that from a book. Yeah. So did that come from your own experience, or did that just how did you develop that? I
think it came a little bit from my own experiences. I've had the opportunity to have some great coaches as I was growing up. Yeah. And I've taken different elements from different people. And as you say, I think coaches are so many different things in someone's. And I really vividly remember some of the people that have touched me in different ways, kind of thing. If he was a teacher, if he was a coach, and I think all of them have given me something, and I've always tried to approach it like that, to learn something from everyone. Everyone does things slightly different, but I think I had always that approach that you can pick things from everything. If I went to a meeting, if I had a meeting with my coach, if I had a meeting with my teacher, I would try to always pick something up. And I think that's kind of very important. But I think experience, as you say, and how you build that experience, and kind of dealing with people, because at the end of the day, coaching is dealing with people. And you got to know what's happening with them off the court, because sometimes their on court performance could be down to a number of reasons. It could be affected by a number of reasons as well. So being that father figure is very important, especially working with younger age groups. I think the discipline, all these standards, values that you can you know, in effect, present to people and just make them take ownership of it. And they're things that I've learned as I was growing up from other coaches. And I think it just comes down that. And it's just a journey of discovery, if you want to call it like that.
Because you are in a very influential position, you know. You said you've been coaching for 15 or 16 years. Say you picked them up when they were, 16 years old. Some of them, 30, 32 now?
Yes, they
are. So they're adults with their own families, with many different things going on. So things you could have said to them when they were 16, 17, 18 can stick for a very long time, which is an amazing position to be in. With that said, you do your 3-4 years at university. You graduate?
I did a few more years after that. I did a master's degree for a year, and then I started my PhD, which I didn't complete because in my second year of PhD, there was the opportunity to work at the, well, it was called Filton College at the time. It wasn't called SGS. It hadn't had the merge. I got the opportunity to work at Filton College full time. And I knew
something you loved.
Exactly. And I knew at that point that had to be. And the job coincided, me being the assistant coach for the academy under Danny James, who at the time was the head coach at the academy, but also it was the start of the Bristol Flyers men's team.
So Bristol Flyers did not exist at this point?
No, exactly. So we decided that was the time for the men's program, and Danny decided to give me the opportunity to be the head coach for that team.
Wow, okay.
Which obviously for me as a young coach, very good question. It was 14 years ago, so that must have been
so very young.
So 23.
23.
Yeah,
wow.
So I was pretty young as a coach, and to be given the head coach responsibility, and being the first year in Division 3 at the time, that was the lowest national league.
So how big was basketball at that time?
In the UK, basketball has been big in the UK through the decades. It went through the 80s and 90s. Basketball was really big, actually, and it was on Sky Sports, and there was a lot of exposure to it. Unfortunately, the sport lost its way a little bit in the 90s, and now it's kind of getting back to a point which I feel is as strong as it was then. At the time I got involved, I think, the BBL, the British League, had been running for years. And I think when we started with the Flyers, what we wanted to do is give an opportunity to our players in the academy, those 16 to 19-year-olds, to experience men's basketball. We felt that, playing in their age group was good, but also giving them the experience to play men's basketball would be something that would really help them on their journey. And, one of the greatest examples of that was Gregg Street. Who's
I've recently connected with Gregg,
Did you? Yeah. So, I cannot recall, you cannot have been at the same time with Gregg at college.
No, so he was older. So he was much older, but obviously he was on kind of every single poster there was.
Yes, he was.
And he was obviously a Bristol lad.
Yes,
so,
exactly. He's the greatest product for us in terms of basketball.
And now he's a fireman.
He is a fireman.
So even to see that transition from playing basketball at that level, and not going to the States, and playing at that level, then transitioning over to a job like a fireman, because I actually seen him in a school. So he's now in a position where he can impact many people as well, not just in his job, but also by going into places and saying, I was a professional athlete, and then this is what I'm doing now.
He's a great ambassador for our sport. And I remember the first day, usually we had his testimonial recently. And I said, I remember the first day when I met him, and he was at the age of 14, and, we're doing some shooting stuff. And there was an instant connection. And he wasn't with us that first year. He was playing for our second men's team. By the following year, when we got promoted to Division 2, Gregg joined us. And since then, we've been through this journey all the way to the BBL. And it was a very difficult moment, actually, when Gregg, last year, he decided that he would take some time off. And as it happened, he made it final this summer that he will not be returning. It was a very difficult changing room because you're used to seeing Gregg there all the time. And he was our captain, he was our leader. But he's such an inspirational figure. And as you say, he's Bristol-born, and he's come through the academy program. And I think that's the beauty of the coaching journey, having the opportunity to see someone like Gregg in his early years developing to become a professional athlete, making the decision not to go to the States. And along his professional duties, he did school coaching, he worked at City Academy for a period, and then making that very mature decision having 2 children, thinking that, I can carry on playing professional basketball maybe for a few years, and the Flyers are definitely on the rise. However, I need to think about my family and I need to build a career. And that was a discussion that we had. And he decided to go to the fire service, which I think it has been a fantastic decision for him and the person that he is. And that's what it's all about. I mean, that's the coaching journey, I think. And I think that's you asked me before, what I love about it. This is exactly what I love, the influence that you can have and how you can support a young man or a young woman.
Yeah, of course.
And giving them the opportunity for them to make decisions and grow. So,
taking it back just a little bit, you said about a PhD. Was that in economics?
It was economics of sport. Yeah, I was looking at managerial. I was looking at managerial displacement. So how long once a football manager gets let go, what factors influence how quickly he will be able to find another job. Okay. It was a very interesting topic.
Do you think you'll go back to get your PhD at some point? Is it something within you, or is it just something you was just doing just to do it, and you can just let it go?
It was very exciting at the time, and I always thank my PhD coordinator for giving me the opportunity to do it, because he was also my tutor while I was doing my master's degree. But I just felt at the time coaching was something I really wanted to give a go, and I think now to go back to it after so many years will be very difficult because there's a lot more literature out there, kind of thing, on the topic to when I was doing it, and I think now focuses with the Flyers, with coaching, what's happening at SGS, and just keep growing the program.
Yeah. So when you first came and you started the Flyers, and was you at the Wise campus then?
Yes, it was 2005. It was the first year that the Wise campus opened.
Oh, okay, wow.
So and everything went from there. Wise, at the time, there was no facility like that in Bristol. No. I mean, there's still no facility like that in Bristol. I mean, the capacity is...
Plug in again.
Yeah, so, I mean, the capacity is of about 750 spectators. And, it's still a college, a school, but for us, it has been far more than that.
I cannot believe how big the Flyers have become as far as just the sports in general. And it was recently, well, not recently, probably within the last year. I can't believe how many people you come to watch you.
You know what?
Even when I was at college, I didn't know. I didn't realize.
Yeah. I cannot believe. If you asked me back then in 2005 when we're starting it, that will be, will be part. We will be selling out every game first of all, and we've been doing that for back-to-back seasons. And the family environment that we have, the link with Bristol Sports, so being associated with Bristol City and Bristol Rugby. Just everything that has come for it. It has been really a journey, and there is a real appetite for basketball in the city. You can see the numbers in our youth program, our community program, how much it's grown over these 14 years, and the academy program. I mean, we've produced some great players that have gone to the States and gone play. Some very good professionals, some guys that have gone to education. Yeah. It's sometimes because you stay in the moment, you don't think too far ahead. But when you sit back sometimes and you think about it, it has been quite a ride up to this point.
How did that community really get built then? Because it just doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
And it's not built on luck, is it? Because I even remember back to when I was in college, I always seen the older Flyers players teaching younger kids, teaching the younger players. So there's always been that kind of community involvement. How do you build that? So if somebody's looking to build something similar or really trying to build a community around whatever sports team they got, how do you do it?
There are no secrets. It just comes down to hard work and people. I think it's just day by day, just trying to do the right things, trying to talk about values and standards, having a vision, because vision is very important because it determines the leadership. Wow. And the vision was to always inspire our community. And through basketball excellence, and we always had that vision, and it was just people on the ground making it work. We've been blessed to have some great players coming through our program that wanted to really give back to the community, and now it's a little bit different because we recruit a lot more than those days, kind of thing. Then we were based more with players around the local area. But I think we had in the first few years we had players that really wanted to give back. and they feel they were privileged. They were getting to play wise and get something that not a lot of people were doing, and they wanted to help the younger players. Along the way, we picked up some amazing volunteers who would do anything for us. And until now, and I think that's the one great thing I think about our program is it has been based around community, as you said.
Yeah.
Some of the volunteers that were with us those early years are still with us in some capacity, and we've picked up people along the way. But I think it has been a passion, a drive, and you know, it hasn't been just about one person.
No.
It's greater than that, and I go back to it that there is a real appetite for the sport. I think it's something different. I think a lot of people that haven't seen a basketball game, they don't know much about it. They probably kind of the closest they might have got to is netball kind of thing, to experience it. But then I think when they come to watch a basketball game, the energy, just the up and down element of the game kind of thing, the athleticism that is on display, the buzz around the building, and I think Wise has such great acoustics as well. When that whole place, when it's a close game and the spectators are really getting behind, it's a very intimidating place for the opposition. And at the same time, it's a family environment as well.
Apart from the angry coach.
Yes. Well, you know, I think that's kind of, I think a lot of people get surprised because they expect to see the same intensity that I have on the court. They expect, like, you know, I think sometimes when they speak to my wife, you know, is Andreas like that back home? But, you know, I think
clean the dishes.
I think it's like anything. When you're coaching, you're taking this persona, and it's all passion. You know, it's not.
You're in your zone.
Exactly. It's exactly that, and it's all about passion, wanting our team to do the best, pushing our players. You know, and I think sometimes it's kind of, it can be misunderstood a little bit, kind of thing, but all purely. The love that I have about our club and our sport, and I just want us, every possession matters. I want people to understand that when Flyers play, you know, they would do anything there is to do for the cert. And obviously, I was having a discussion with our players yesterday, you know, and I was telling them about the journey that I have been here from day one. And, you know, I remember us driving on a minibus up to Newcastle with 12 grown men.
That's a long drive.
With a small 70-seater minibus. And I remember actually in our first year, after the game was finished, the spectator seats, myself, the coaching staff, and the players will put them away after the game. So we've gone through different kind of phases, and you know, we still do some of the things. You know, setting up the court. It's part of our kind of culture in the morning. You know, I'll go in. Our team manager Mike Atkins will be there. Some of the players from the junior teams will help us put things up, kind of thing. There's a great family feeling. But we've gone through those stages, and I never want us to forget where we come from. And I think the message to the players was like, none of you have been there, but you are part of it now. And you're representing whoever has played for the Flyers before and who's going to play for the Flyers in the future. So you've got to make sure you're an ambassador and a role model for our sport.
So recruitment, you said you're in a position now where you recruit a lot more players, which also means American players.
Correct.
So back to when I was in SGS, I know I keep saying that, but you had, I know Gregg was one of, obviously he's a Bristol lad, however you had, what was his name, people like Doug,
Doug McLaughlin-Williams,
so and even like walking into the gym and seeing these individuals, like, oh my, these dudes are massive, doing pull-ups and they're tall and they're athletic. But now when I look at the roster for the Bristol Flyers, you got a lot more Americans, a lot more players coming after their D1 experience and coming over. How do you recruit, and what do you look for? Because I guess on a piece of paper, you might see all their statistics, but then it's okay having all these statistics, but what if their attitude sucks? What if they think that they're coming over just for a holiday? What do you do as a coach and as a coaching team? How do you recruit?
Yeah, it's a very good question, this one. So the skill is important. The skill of the player is very important. And what position we're looking to recruit. We're allowed to have 3 American players in our team. 3. And 2 Europeans, so all together 5 foreign players we're allowed to have. And then the rest of them are British. They have to be British. So from a squad of 12, 7 British, and then 5 foreign, 2 EU, 3 Americans. So it's always a challenge, and you learn every year. But I think the main thing is we're looking obviously for talented players. That's the number one. You need the talent, and we're looking also for people who are hungry, who want to prove themselves. And that's kind of a massive part of our recruitment. We want people that want to do it the right way, do it in a team manner, but at the same time, you know, they're really driven and motivated, and they really want to take their game to another level. I think that's very important in terms of our aspect. The character element is huge. It's to be honest with you, it's more important even than the talent of the player.
Yeah.
You know, we want guys that are hardworking, and you know, there is the old saying, you know, that hard work beats talent when talent refuses to work hard, and all those kind of things. I'm not going to go into the cliches of it.
Motivational speaker and all.
Yes, exactly. But the reality is, you know, you want to have people that, you know, understand that there is a process to things, and it's a day-by-day process. And sometimes, you know, people don't understand that, and you want with guys that will value every day, because every day matters, and you know, people that aren't selfish. It's not about them. It's about giving back and understanding that, you know, what they got to do and how they got to go about doing things will help the program, but also it will help themselves. And one of the big thing I say, like usually it's the first day when I meet all the players, is, you know, I don't have a lot of rules as such, but the one thing I do say to all our players are, you know, don't do anything to hurt yourself, don't do anything to hurt the program. And and you know, I think it's something that I heard from another coach, and I thought it was very strong message.
You can't say nothing,
because, you know, I think sometimes with rules are to be broken. I think it's more about standards and expectations and values of the program, and I think that's a lot stronger in that regard. But I think to summarize it, talent is important, but character, you know, there's nothing more important than that. And there's a few ways we do it. The conversation with the player is a very important part of I've seen some great players on highlights, and I've watched film on them, and I'm going, wow, yeah, this guy fits exactly what we're doing. And then I have the conversation, and the conversation doesn't go anywhere. There's no flow to it, kind of thing. It just doesn't feel right.
Because they're coming in for instant role models as well, aren't they?
Yes.
So for your young players you got coming up in the program, if you get these 3 new recruits from America, they still have to fulfill some type of role model position. 100%. They might not realize that, but when they come over, everyone's going to instantly kind of be looking up to them. So yeah, I think it's very important. But what inspires you? What did inspire you maybe when you was younger? Do you have coaches who inspire you, or players, or maybe it's just family? What inspires you?
You know, it's a very good question, actually, what inspires me. I think definitely coaches that I've had in the past. I can think of a couple of coaches that have really helped me along my journey.
Okay.
And not so much with my basketball skill, but understanding about things like discipline, hard work, process, I think, over results, instant results kind of thing. I think that has really kind of helped me kind of understand things. And now where we are kind of thing, I think progress. I think that's kind of something that inspires me, gets me motivated, gets me excited.
Progress.
I want to know that we're going somewhere, that, you know, I think for me it's never about staying still and doing the same thing and doing it for a number of years. I want to feel that we're growing, that we keep on going. I think there is some companies, I'm not going to mention names, but they didn't look ahead and they didn't see what's going to happen. And unfortunately, as of that, they've fallen out of the market. Some companies have been very smart, and they've been thinking forward thinking. And I think for me is what inspires me, what keeps me motivated is to know that, you know, we're building towards something, and I want to see that. And I think for me, that's the whole thing with the Flyers. And this journey that we've been in, that I can see signs of progress all the time. And, you know, there's a big one coming with having a 4,000 seat facility in the near future. So I think that kind of really drives me, inspires me to be the best version of myself every day. And, you know, I'll be honest with you, it's not and it's not an easy thing, because sometimes you want things to happen a little bit quicker.
That's what I was going to ask you. So we're just talking about the success of the Flyers and the success of your story, but we both know it doesn't always go like that, does it really?
And there's challenge along the way, of course.
How much challenging kind of adversity have you faced over the years? And how did you still manage to, say, wake up in the morning, stand in front of your players, and still stand there as a leader, even though deep down or within inside you're not particularly happy sometimes, you're not feeling good, your head's somewhere else? How do you do that, or how did you overcome some of the challenges you have faced?
It's definitely not an easy thing to do. And I think as a leader, and a coaching position is a leadership responsibility.
Yeah, of course, 100%.
So you got to make sure you are able to deal with the different punches that come along.
You got to show up
losses, losses, just those kind of things that happen on a day-by-day type of situation. It's not easy at all, and I'm still learning at it. But I think what they would tell you, that every successful people would tell you, is that they had a moment at some point where they failed, or they were close to failure. And
what moment was that for you?
I've had a few along the ways. If it's maybe some results, maybe not achieving what we wanted to do at the end of the year kind of thing. Maybe it has been coaching with a national team and not being able to retain a Division A status, because you have different divisions in European basketball. So we usually are in Division B, but at the time we're in Division A. The Commonwealth Games this year, they were like a disappointment, because I was feeling that we could.
Okay, so talk to us a little bit about that. So what was you doing at the Commonwealth Games?
So I was the England head coach, and for the men's program, and we were in Australia. And we were hoping that we would be competing for a medal.
Put basketball aside, I bet that was an incredible experience, just being in Australia, being a head coach of England. And
it was a fantastic experience.
Wow.
And just getting that whole feeling of being around all the different England teams. We during the preparation stages in Brisbane, we were staying with all the different sports. Just so speaking around with all different athletes from different kind of backgrounds. I think that was such a tremendous experience. Then towards the end, being in the athletes village, it was just something incredible, that it will always be with me. In terms of the performance, unfortunately, we lost to Canada in the quarterfinals, which was quite tough to take. We're hoping that we'll be competing for a medal, and unfortunately we're not able to do it.
But surely Canada's
it's a good basketball country. We just had aspirations of a medal, or having the opportunity to be in the top 4 teams. I think that was a difficult moment, and there have been a few. But I think you got to grow through those moments. You're going to find ways to motivate yourself, and certainly that Commonwealth Games experience has helped me to learn more about myself, improve as a coach, and reflect. And
did you have a lot of pressure?
I think there is always pressure.
Yeah.
I feel like I like pressure. I want to have pressure. I think that's kind of you ask me what inspires me, motivates me. Pressure is element of it, and putting yourself in those type of situations excites you. It kind of the adrenaline rush. So I think that
sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
Can too much pressure be bad for you? Or what you've experienced, not just personally, but as coaching your other players? Because, of course, as they say, pressure makes diamonds, but then it also bursts pipes at the same time.
It does.
So can there be too much pressure, or do we need to experience more pressure? Because going into, I talk close to, 100,000 students every year now. And resilience is one thing I see a lot of people lacking. And a lot of time it's because they think, say, pressure or stress for the exams is a bad thing, but necessarily it's not, because in life you are going to experience pressure, you are going to experience stress, whether sometimes it's paying bills, whether sometimes it's, in a relationship, whatever it might be. It doesn't just have to be in school, in sports or whatever. We experience stress in a lot of different areas of our life. Can too much stress be bad? Or do you think you need it?
I think you definitely need some stress because it keeps you sharp, and it keeps you focused, and you don't get complacent. So I think
wow, that's really cool.
And I think but at the same time, as you say, if stress gets on top of you,
chronic stress, I guess, isn't it? If it's for years, and
if it gets on top of you, then it can have an adverse effect, and I think you have to manage it. And what's important to that is the support that you have, the people that you have around you. I mean, I cannot speak higher than my wife. I think she understands me better than any other person, and without her, the last 8-9 years, I think I would have found it very difficult to deal with certain situations. So I think you got to have a network of people around you that support you. If that's your partner, if that's your family, whatever that may be, I think that's so important. And you got to have moments of weaknesses. Everyone has them. It's natural kind of thing. And I think even the most successful people in the world, they will lie.
Of course.
If they said that they've never had a moment where maybe they felt vulnerable. Everyone feels vulnerable. I think, but I think is how you got to do it. Are you got to allow that kind of vulnerability to get on top of you, or are you got to fight? I think for me, it's about fighting, fighting against adversity and understanding that that's kind of the process that you have to go through to grow as a person, as a coach, or in whatever kind of environment you're working or you want to succeed in, really.
Yeah.
I think it's just, I think pressure, I always see it as a good thing. I think it just keeps me in game mode, keeps me in fighting mode.
I think what you said, stress and pressure keeps you sharp. And I think that's fascinating because going back as well, you said some companies and organizations, they become stagnant, so they're no longer here anymore.
Yes. And
you also said progress. So when you're progressing, you're also going to experience some type of resistance. That's just normal, isn't it? When you're growing in anything, there's going to be some type of resistance. So it's good that you kind of pulled out the key elements of that, which is ultimately a bit of stress as well. So are you still coaching England at the moment?
So I'm not. My contract with England came to an end after the Commonwealth Games.
Okay.
And I had the option to carry on because England doesn't usually meet other than the Commonwealth Games. You have GB in terms of basketball. So it's more like the home nations for a competition like the Commonwealth Games.
Okay, I got you.
However, we compete in Europe as Great Britain. So I was with the Great Britain under-20s for 4 seasons. 2 as assistant coach and 2 as head coach.
Yeah.
We had great success in my last year. We were able to get promoted to Division A and win a medal, which was fantastic. And then I had the option to return last summer. However, I decided to spend some time with my wife. And it was great to see actually the GB under-20s under the new head coach Mark Stuto do very well in Division A. So it was great to see them succeed.
And the Flyers are growing as well, aren't they? So it needs probably more of your attention. Just talking a little bit about your wife, how has that helped you be who you are today? As you said, you can kind of reflect, have a good network around you. When you go home, do you just leave everything on the doorstep, or are you talking coaching, you're pulling your wife up to the chair and say, watch this play, watch that play? How is it? Because I can imagine you are quite an intense guy, so I can imagine you share that a little bit at home as well.
Yeah, Ursula is great. She used to play basketball herself.
Oh, okay.
So she knows the game, so she understands the game. So it's always great to hear her insight. And we're talking about how the game went, what we could have done differently.
You made a terrible decision today.
Yes, exactly. She's definitely the loudest person on the basketball court. I think sometimes people around her kind of thing, move around seats if
so
it gets
she
a
comes
little bit
as
loud.
well. So
She's there in every game.
The pressure.
But it's great. She's very supportive, and when we're off the court. I think she knows me very well, so she knows when I'm very low, and she will give me some space kind of things, and she knows very well when to give me the support that I need and when sometimes to be quiet and just let me kind of find myself again a little bit kind of thing. So she's very good in that regard. But it goes back to what I was saying. I think it's just you got to have that network of support around you. If you're an elite sports person, If you're a lead coach, if you're just at any kind of job, I think you need to have those people around you that will give you their advice. And I think it's very important to also sometimes to go away, because I think when things happen to you, you just think about yourself all the time. And I think it's very important to hear about what other people are going through. So asking someone how their day was and listening about their challenges, what they've had, if they had a good day, they haven't had a good day. And I think it gives you that perspective sometimes.
To clarify what you just said, and from your personal experience as well, I can vouch for that, right? Because I don't think, when I was in college, I don't think I've ever really had a conversation with you. I think I might have said hello kind of shyly, and you've been like, what's going on? This guy's always in the gym. What's wrong with him?
I mean, it's impressive, though. Can I just say?
He's really short. He's not growing in height, but he's, you know.
Can I just say, we never spoke at college, but I was always very impressed with your work ethic. I mean,
I had to, because I was small.
But it was impressive, you know, and I think, you know, it was something that will always stand out. And I always kind of refer to it. And I know we didn't speak a lot at college, but I think that was very impressive. Yeah. It's credit to you and your mentality and your mindset.
Yeah. And then at the prize there, you came up to me before I went on, and you shook my hand. You said, "Oh, I've heard you talking today. Good luck. I'm gonna be listening." I'm like, "Oh, he knows who I am. He's gonna watch me. What if it goes bad?" But just you coming up to me and just shaking my hand and stuff, and just even that kind of 10 to 15-second conversation is probably a little bit out of your world, but it made a big difference to me, and probably just even to your sanity as well, I guess, because it's something outside of basketball.
You did great, by the way. But you did great on that.
Did I look tall on the stage?
So you looked well. I'm not going to lie to you in that regard. You still didn't look tall, but you did great.
Thank you.
And it's great to see former students who have gone away and achieved things, and to see them back coming to the college and talk to the students. I think that's such a powerful thing, and to have you up there in the stage and talking and understanding where most of the people in that room have come from, and I think that was great. It was great to see you there. So
thank you. So what's next? You said Bristol Flyers got a new stadium coming, which is going to be huge. Let me ask you a question. Predicting the future, you said 4,000. Wow. Currently at Wise, there's 750. Did you say?
Yes, something like that.
Do you reckon the Flyers will sell out a 4,000 seat stadium?
I'm certain it will happen. Actually, I'm very certain on that. I think. It's always difficult to say what's going to happen 3 to 5 years. You know, if you asked me at the time, back in 2005, that the Flyers, after 14 years, they will be in the BBL and they will be currently third in the league with a winning record and all that kind of stuff, I'll be going.
How many teams are in the league? 3?
More like 12, but you're the right way. It's still, but I think. It has been such an incredible journey, and it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen in 3 to 5 years. But what I can say is, due to the people that we have involved, the hard work behind, the passion, you know, Bristol Sport, SGS College,
Bristol
the volunteers,
really
just everything that there is there. There is a real passion and there is a real appetite, and you know, everyone sees a big potential in this. So I think for me, filling a 4,000 seat stadium, I think it would definitely happen. I think it would definitely happen. I think the Flyers have a bright future ahead of them. I think playing in Europe, competing for a BBL championship.
So can they go and play in Europe and stuff, can they?
Yes, Leicester this year, after a number of years, was the first British team to go back to play in Europe. Leicester Riders. So they were the BBL champions last year.
Okay, I got
you. So after a few years now, they've decided to go and they lost all their games, but they did very well. They competed very well. And the coach Paternostro there with Leicester Riders has built a fantastic program over the years, and they have their own arena, and they're doing really good things. And I think a lot of clubs now are looking the success that Leicester has had in recent years, and obviously the opportunity they had this year to play in Europe, and a lot of clubs want to make this dream happen. I think Bristol is a fantastic location for it, just Bristol Airport.
It will happen, yeah, of course.
I think our situation with the Sports and Convention Centre being right next to the Aston Gate and next to the football club and rugby club, you can see a situation. There will be a football game or a rugby game at 3 o'clock, and people will have some dinner and then go and watch the basketball straight after, whatever time it is, 6, 7.
Wow.
So it could be a real sports village kind of feeling to it. So I don't have a doubt that we're going to be selling out. I think there's a bright future ahead of us, and you know, you want to fast forward sometimes, but you got to enjoy the moment.
Can I MC one of the games? So I come on and,
you know what? I think that would be really
Mexican
good.
wave.
I think we will need to try to arrange something very soon.
Hold me to it. I will.
Let's do it to Wise first, so you get used to the crowd, and then we can have you ready for the 4,000 people as well. So
and then all of a sudden I come to your office and you got like this suit waiting for me to run on with the suit.
I might have to come here and get you to motivate our team before one of the games.
I'm ready.
Speak to them.
I'm ready. That would be incredible. To wrap this up then, okay. I ask all my guests this. If you could sit down with only 3 people, dead or alive, could be a celebrity, could literally be anybody.
Oh, wow.
Only 3 people you would love to pick their minds, maybe somebody who has inspired you. What 3 people would it be?
This is a tough question, actually. I haven't thought about that question.
On the spot.
I
knew I'd get him.
Yes. I think, you know, in terms of the first person I would think of, I suppose, is it will have to be Michael Jordan. You know, I think everyone knows him. I think having the opportunity to sit and hear about how he's gone about becoming the player that he was.
Have you met Michael Jordan?
Through his journey? No, I haven't.
No.
I would love to meet him. I think he'll be up there.
He's coming on the podcast tomorrow.
Is he? I might have to come back for that one. So I think he will be. It would just be exciting. You know, I mean, the guy is a legend of the sport. He's
but why is he? What separated him to everybody else? I'm a fan of Michael Jordan, but just for people who kind of don't know basketball, they might have heard of the name Michael Jordan. I'm wearing Jordans now. They might know the uniform or different things. What made Michael Jordan Michael Jordan?
Just one of a kind. The mindset. I think his ability to understand process and keep working hard and being the best he can be in his sport. And you know, I think a lot of people now talking about LeBron James and you know, like who win that battle kind of thing. I think for me, it's just the way he could have an impact in the game and help his teammates to be the best they can be, how to unlock other people's potential, but at the same time stepping up and making, you know, you talked about pressure. I mean, there's a pressure guy, you know, and there's the very famous quote that he had about dealing with failure kind of thing. And you know, he has failed time after time, but he will still step up there and take the big shots. And I think Michael Jordan is one of a kind, really. You're talking about resilience. You're talking about kind of being able to deal with adversity and success. I mean, you know, the guy is, and everyone wears his sneakers. You know, like there's people that don't know about basketball, anything. But you will see them wearing.
They still don't make me look taller.
I mean, you're wearing Jordans right now.
Still don't make me look taller.
I mean, you're wearing Jordans right now. I mean, he's a brand.
Do you watch the NBA?
I think, you know, my players watch the NBA a lot more than I do these days. I still get excited. I think the NBA has changed quite a lot in recent years. I think the game has changed
for the better.
For the better. I think you see teams like Golden State Warriors and a lot of teams how they utilize the three, the ball movement, and at the end of the day, you have the best basketball players in the world playing there.
Oh, it's incredible.
And it's not just Americans anymore. I mean, they're great athletes, they're great talents. The skill level is fantastic, and the influx of European players that are making such a big name for themselves now. Players like Luka Doncic, who's like, you know, I don't know how old he is, 20 years old, and you know, he's playing for Dallas at the moment. He's doing really well, and it just kind of shows that it's not anymore an American sport. It's a global game, and so I still watch it. I prefer watching the EuroLeague. I prefer watching European basketball.
Have you ever considered coaching in America?
I think I have considered maybe coaching at the college ranks. It's something that I haven't really. I think like anything, you gotta put yourself out there. It's a lot about networking. It's something when I was younger, I think I was considering. Now I'm in a different state of. I think you know, to be able to coach at that level, you have to put a lot of effort within that US structure. And I think now I'm in a different stage of my life. Maybe when I was younger, if I'd made some decisions to maybe go in the States, that could have worked. But I think I'm enjoying what I'm doing.
Of course.
And you know, if there was an opportunity to coach in Europe or to coach in America in the future, it would be something that I consider about at the moment.
Because you are still really young as a coach.
Yes, I am.
When you really think about it, you started coaching when you were about 20 years old.
Yes.
And you started at, say, SGS at 23, 24. People are still playing within that whole time.
They are.
So for you to be coaching and have that amount of experience at the age of 37, 38 is incredible.
And the only thing that's different, I suppose, is I've got a lot more grey hair these days than I had when I first coached.
At least you've got hair. I'm losing mine. So, what are you laughing for, guys?
But, you know, it's true. I'm still a young coach.
Very young.
So, you know, I'm not 40 years old yet. So, you know, I've got a couple of years ahead of me before I get there. But, you know, there's a lot of experience there that I have picked up over the years. But as I told you from the start, there's so many more things to learn.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing about, you know, every day is an opportunity to learn. And I enjoy that. But to go back to your points,
you're skipping my question. Who's number two? So we got Michael Jordan.
I think it's a very...
After the three, you can go home. We can unlock the doors.
I think I've been watching The Crown recently on Netflix, so I think I have to go for the Queen. I think the Queen...
The Queen, okay.
I think the Queen is... I
didn't see that one coming.
So I know it's a little bit different, right? But I have to say, watching the series in Netflix, it has kind of... I have never really thought about it coming from you know, from Greece and things,
I can't believe you have
and
a
the royal
social life
family
to watch Netflix.
But she's an incredible person, and I just think having the opportunity to pick her brains and talk to you about the things that she had to go through.
I wonder how her life is so different.
You know, and like you're talking about pressure. I mean, she's had some real pressure situations that she had to deal with, basically. And also when she became the Queen, I mean, the world was very much different to what it is now. And I mean, seeing all those different decades go past, just from a technological point of view, and just to hear her story, I think it will be an interesting one. And I think it probably relates because I've been watching Netflix.
Can we email the Queen, see if we can get her on the podcast?
I think that would be
a good interview.
That would be a good interview. And I suppose the last one, I've gone for Michael Jordan, arguably the greatest player of all times. I've gone for the Queen, a very historic figure that is still alive and reigning.
That's interesting.
And I suppose, I think the last one, and you're catching me off guard, so I've got to think quickly. For me, if he was a basketball coach, it has to be a basketball coach. And there's so many that go through your mind. But I think for me, is a guy probably not a lot of people will know, but it's a guy called Zeljko Obradović, who's arguably the most successful European basketball coach of all time. He's coaching Fenerbahce at the moment. He used to coach Panathinaikos. I've kind of watched clinics, but I haven't met him in person. I've watched clinics of him, live clinics, and I've seen him, but I haven't actually met him. One of my players has been coached by him.
Oh, wow.
When he was playing, he was coaching Panathinaikos
for a few years. For you.
I mean, the guy is spectacular. I mean, his coaching journey started, I think, on overnight. He went from player to coach, and he was able, I think, in his first year of coaching to be able to win a European title with his club. And he's been successful in EuroLeague, which is the equivalent of the Champions League in football, basically. And he's still coaching. And wherever he's gone, he's produced results. He's recruited very well. He's very demanding of his players. He gets the best out of them. And it doesn't matter if they're superstars or not. For them, it's the same. He treats all of them in a manner that expects the most. And he, in effect, if you have what you probably call a superstar, he expects them to set the tone for everyone else.
Wow.
So I think he's a great personality, and I think he'll be very interesting to meet and have a very good conversation. He looks like a very funny guy as well off the court. But if you're talking about me getting very stressed and very active during the games, you should watch. You should watch. Go to YouTube and type Zeljko Obradović, and you will see an intense guy right there, basically.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. I just want to literally from the bottom of my heart say thank you for this. I've literally loved this podcast. And hopefully once you guys get into the new stadium as well, and you're filling out the stadium, and maybe in a couple of years we can reconnect again. I'm sure we connect now anyway.
Yes.
Keep in touch 100%. But it'd be great to have you back on the podcast and talk a little bit more in detail, because I think your story is fascinating. I think you've learnt so much, and what you've done over the last 16 years has been incredible, especially as you kind of started this journey at 2023, which is a lot. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. You know, first of all, it's great to see you as an individual and how you've grown in your business and everything that you're doing at the moment. I think giving the speech at SGS was great, and it was like a really good to see you and where you are right now, and I wish you all the best in the future as well. And you know, you said that you want to come to one of our games.
I want to talk to the team.
So we got to make that happen.
You might have to put me on the platform when I talk to your team. Probably your smallest player is still taller than me. So
it's just a real pleasure. It has been great to have a conversation with you and talk about the different elements that we discussed. And you know, I wish you all the best with your podcast, but everything that you do in life and stuff. And you know, you're putting a lot of work, and I really wish you get everything back that you deserve, basically, in that regard. So yeah,
thank you. Okay, so with that said, guys, make sure you check out Andreas. You're on Twitter and things like that as well, but also check out Bristol Flyers. They're very active on Instagram, on all different social medias. It's a really kind of interesting page to see. And also, if you come to Bristol, or if you are based in Bristol, I fully recommend checking them out and even going to watch a game. With that said, make sure you hit the big red button, subscribe. Thank you for listening, and make sure you follow us on all our social medias. And until next time, keep working hard.